I can't think of a better presentation to end on about gaming doing good. So please tell us all about gaming doing good.
Great. Hi. So before I get started, I wanted to see how long people have been involved with mobile games. So if you've been making a mobile game, or you're an ad company doing mobile games, or an SDK or platform company, please raise your hand. Hopefully it's most of the room. Okay. Now, for those of you who have been making mobile games or involved with it for more than 4 years, please raise your hand. So not too many people, and those are the people who've been doing this before tablets were popular. How about 8 years? How many now? So 8 years, you're doing mobile games before the app stores became popular. 13 years? One person in the back? So if you've been working on mobile games since 2001, you likely were working on emulators before they even released phones that were available in the US. And that's where one of my co-founders, Winston, and I started with mobile games in 2000 with my first company, CenterScore. In 2006, we sold that company to Vivendi, and later, 2 years later, Vivendi sold us to Electronic Arts, where we met our third co-founder, Keith. And the reason why I have this history up here is just to show that I've been making games for quite some time. And during this whole time, it was a really rewarding experience. I loved the creativity of making games and working with the team on creating a product. But over time, something changed for us. The three of us each had babies. And as a result of that, it started making us think more about the type of games we were working on. And the games we were doing were casual and were pretty wholesome already. But we wanted to switch from just making games that we'd be okay with our kids playing in the future to making games that we would want our kids to play. And that's why we started Pixelberry. So one of the first things we did when we started was to focus on educational games and kind of study what they're doing. And we realized that most educational games really concentrate on the education first, and then they layer on some fun on top to try and make it seem like it was a fun game. And this works for preschoolers and early elementary age kids, but it doesn't pass a sniff test at all with junior hires or high school students. They've grown up their whole lives playing games. So we decided to flip this model. And our vision is to concentrate on fun first and then layer in elements of education. And by doing this, we thought we could reach a broader audience. And once we have them playing our game, we could start teaching them different things. So we did this with our first and only game to date, High School Story. And High School Story is a game about designing your dream high school and putting your friends in the game and sending them on different high school-related quests and activities. And when we first started designing the game, we focused on 2 key areas. The first was we focused on players. And these are just 2 small examples of what we did, but I thought it's very indicative of how we focus on players. From the start, we had a really diverse cast that reflects the real world. So no matter where anyone in the world came from, when they were playing our game, they could relate to our game, which is unlike a lot of other mobile games. We also decided to allow players to decide who dates who, which also reflects the real world. And in our player comments, a week after we released, we saw that players really latched onto this, and it helped them feel more involved and a part of the game. The other area we really focused on was story. We wanted to have great writing in the game. So when we first launched the game, we actually had 7 writers on our team, and we now have 10 writers. And the reason we have so many writers is because we wanted to focus on episodic storylines. Every week, we release 1 to 3 new quests, and this allows players to get to know our characters, much like a favorite TV show or a comic that they're reading. And over time, they see how the characters change and develop, and they start building a closer relationship to that player. And our thought was, with episodic storylines, it would really help with retention for the game. So we focused on players, and we focused on story. And once we launched the game, we saw that both those things worked really well. We had a tutorial completion rate of 80%, And for those of you working on games, that's a great number if you're making a mobile game. Our ratio of daily active users to monthly active users is nearly a third, which is also a really high rate, indicating your game is really sticky and people are coming back to the game. Our game also reaches a lot of teens. We have over 12 million installs, and our MA monthly active users right now is 2.2 million, and we have 700,000 daily users. And because of all those users, we've been making money from the game. This chart shows you where we are in top grossing in the US on both the iPhone and the Google Play stores. And you can see that we've consistently been in the top 100 grossing on the iPhone in the US, peaking at number 10 at launch, and then once again, right after Christmas, when there were a lot of gift cards that our players received, peaking at number 18. And our game has really resonated with players. We have a 4.5-star average rating, and as this player wrote, and it's indicative of a lot of the reviews we have, out of all the iPhone games I've played, High School Story is easily the one with the most heart. One of the things we tried to do with our storyline from the beginning was to focus on a group of misfits who don't always fit in at their old high school, and they come together to design their dream school. And we focus on issues of self-confidence, of working together, of overcoming adversity. And some of our favorite messages came from players who related to those messages. This one girl from Japan wrote, "For me, High School Story opened my eyes to be just myself in front of everybody instead of just fitting in." Messages like that really encouraged our team and kept us going. A month after we released the game, I was surfing the web and I came upon an article. I read that one and it linked to another one. And the first article was about a girl, Rebecca Sedwick, in Florida, who was cyberbullied by people at her school, and unfortunately she committed suicide. The other article was about a local girl from the Bay Area. She went to Los Gatos High School, and she got drunk at a party, passed out, and when she woke up, she found that boys from her school had scribbled on a Sharpie all over her body. And the next day at school, she found out that they had sent pictures of her to people all around her high school. She was so embarrassed and frustrated that she never told her parents about it, and instead she too committed suicide. And normally when I read stories like this, it's just really sad. But this time I realized that we actually had a platform that we could use to reach teens, and we could use High School Story to try and combat bullying. So I talked to people in our studio about it. I talked to them about how I was bullied in middle school. Other people opened up about how they were bullied growing up as well. And we decided to create a cyberbullying storyline that would teach players what to do if they or their friends were being bullied. When we started this process, we wanted to look for an expert in the field, whether it was a professor or a nonprofit, someone who really knew the topic. And we wanted to do this to make sure that we were teaching the right things, and also because it was such a sensitive topic. We wanted to make sure everything was done appropriately. But we had a really hard time finding a partner. We made a lot of phone calls, left a lot of voicemails, sent out a lot of emails. No one responded. I don't think nonprofits understood that games could enact change. But something else happened during that same time. We started writing the cyberbullying storyline on our own when we got a message from a player within our game. First, they started asking us questions about the game, and we responded to those. And then suddenly, she told us that she was planning to kill herself. And we were really shocked and scared. We didn't know what to do. Our studio manager and I ended up calling the suicide prevention hotline to get advice on what to do. And they urged us to tell her to get professional help. But we thought if all we did was tell her to go get professional help, that she might just drop off and just assume we were pushing things off. So we did that, but we also told her that we cared about her and that we were there to listen. And so we ended up exchanging messages with her for about a week. And it was one of the most nerve-wracking weeks I've had. But at the end of that week, she told us that she was finally getting professional help. And she also said that it was because of High School Story that she was still alive. And that moment showed us how powerful a game can be. You know, games are a form of entertainment, but because we're good at doing our jobs as game designers, we're able to touch people's lives, get them relate to the storylines, to characters, to the design of our games. And as a result, they care about what we do, and our games can make a difference. And so we redoubled our efforts to look for an expert. Fortunately, we got connected with PlayMob, and they're a company that connects charities with game developers. And they had just signed a new charity called CyberSmile. And CyberSmile focuses on cyberbullying. So we talked with CyberSmile, and together we partnered on a cyberbullying campaign in our game. First, they reviewed the storyline we had written. They made a number of changes to make it more realistic and also to give better advice. We also agreed that any other players who wrote to us about bullying or other serious topics, we'd actually have CyberSmile counselors reply back to those players rather than our in-game support people. They had celebrities affiliated with CyberSmile tweet about what we were doing together. And lastly, we put CyberSmile items in our game. The more of those items that players purchased, the more money that we as a studio would donate to CyberSmile. And players loved the storyline. As you can see, our daily active users increased by 16%, which shows that both more players, so acquisition, were coming in, as well as more players were staying with the game. And our daily average revenues rose as a result, too. But most importantly, as a result of this, every week, over 100 players reach out to CyberSmile, often about bullying, self-hurting, or even suicide. And to date, we've donated over $300,000 to CyberSmile to help them grow their network and hire more counselors and help more people. They also told us some crazy stories. One story was about a player who was on the top of a house messaging with CyberSmile counselors telling them that they were planning to jump. They never talked to their parents about their problem. And the counselors were able to talk them down, get them to talk to their parent, and help them build a relationship, a deeper relationship with their parents. When we first designed this game, I never thought in a million years that our game would actually be saving lives. It's incredible what we've been able to do. And as a result of this, it's changed our team's perspective on what work means. You know, we've always had a lot of fun as a team. We've been a tight team that's worked together for quite some time. But knowing that what we're doing is helping people really adds another level to everything we do. And people on the team have individually stepped up to address areas that are important to them. We had one guy who, after reading about how women sometimes are treated in gaming and are harassed by other players, really wanted to write a women in gaming storyline. So he did that, and we launched that. Two of the women in our studio had body image issues in high school. So they decided to address body image and eating disorders. And we partnered with the National Eating Disorder Association to do a similar partnership that we did with CyberSmile. And over 100,000 players, after reading that storyline, actually pressed a button to go learn more information from the National Eating Disorders Association. And just this month, we launched a new feature called Your Voice. Now, Your Voice follows the same principles of us trying to focus on fun first and then education. At its core, it's a pretty simple feature. We're asking players fun questions about topics like movies, TV shows, internet memes, things that are going on in their lives, and we're showing those answers to all their connected friends who are playing the game. But at the same time, we're also asking about some serious topics. This one's about net neutrality. We also have questions about the Supreme Court Hobby Lobby decision, This week, we're talking about Russia and the Malaysian airliner crash. And our whole intent with this is that we're hoping that some teens who don't spend as much time learning about current events or serious topics that are going around will be exposed to those topics. And as a result, over time, if they hear their parents talking about those topics or they see a link on the internet about that topic, they'll pay more attention to it. And this feature has been working out great for us as well. As you can see, in just a week, we had an 11% increase in our daily active users, and the number of sessions we have, average sessions per day, also increased by 12%. And we've also had players writing in. This one, Z, said, "The political questions are only annoying because I end up spending an hour researching them and forget about the question itself." Right? So our intent of what we wanted to do with this is really working. Some of our players are learning more about the world because we're exposing them to those topics. So what we've done with High School Story has been really encouraging for our team, and we're hoping to do more around it. But as an industry, we focus a lot on numbers and analytics, MAUs, DAUs, ARPDAU, and we work with numbers so often, I think we often forget that behind each one of those numbers, behind each daily active user, there are actual people. And some of those people could use our help. So I challenge each one of you in this room and listening to the presentation to think about a way, whether it's big or small, in your job or with your company, so that while you're making money, you can also make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't think of a more perfect and powerful way to end a gaming conference of the day, so thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions for Oliver? Well, maybe I'll have one question, I'll bring it up. This game is aimed at teens. How do you deal with legal compliance issues like COPPA compliance for sort of, I know there's a 13-year-old restriction for that, so can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So we try and be extremely careful with COPPA requirements. That's why for features like polling, we make it multiple choice answers so that there's no personally identifiable information. And we try and make the game really social. As a result, but we don't do things like have chat in the game. So players can send their friends on different quests. Example might be, who do you want to send to this dance? Or who do you want to be the star quarterback on the football team? And they can put their players in there. It's really fun for them. And they can send messages via Facebook to their friends about that. But we don't allow them the freedom to just write anything, because we wanted to make sure that our game wasn't a source of bullying.
It's a pretty basic question. Just so, how do you monetize your traffic?
We monetize primarily through in-app purchases. So it is a freemium game, and we tried to design the game to concentrate a lot on retention, but clearly monetization is important as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in-app purchases mostly.
It is the main thing, but we also do monetize through ads in the game, so that people who want more premium currency can see those ads.
So you mentioned about retaining users or re-engaging users through questions and things that they would like. How do you decide which user sees which question and which at what time and all of those things?
That's a great question. We should consider slicing and dicing the information more. But right now, so for those polling questions, we just show all the users the same questions. So if you download the game yourself and you're playing the polling questions right now, you'll see that every week we release a new batch of 50 questions. And those first set of questions will be answered 500, 600, 700,000 times.
Have you considered localizing or globalizing the product? I'm sure it's very specific to each individual country.
Yeah, it's definitely something we'd like to do. As far as being specific to each country, American high school movies and TV shows have done really well around the world, so we'd keep it to kind of the high school theme. Also, if you do have other questions, I think we still have time for more questions, but if you have other questions or you're looking to join our team in Mountain View, you can send an email to me.
Yeah, I just had a question. On the subjects that you pick to present to them, let's say like net neutrality, you're giving them predefined choices on answers?
Yes.
how do you deal with that? I mean, your game is clearly very powerful. So, by defining clearly segmented choices, are you worried about the influence you'll have on a user if you give him an option to have an opinion that you've already predefined?
No, that's a very interesting question. We try and present it in a neutral way, such that there are actually several different answers. So something like Hobby Lobby, we were very unsure if we wanted to even include that, but we thought since it was a major piece of news that week, and it is important, we decided to have that question. But we give answers so that people can show their views on both sides, as well as there's a skip option if people don't want to show their friends that answer.
Oh. Hi. What percentage of players who see questions answer them?
I don't have the exact figures on that, but my early indications, I think it's a very high percentage, probably around 80 to 90% of people who've unlocked that feature at that point in the game have played at least 3 questions.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, thank you very much. Wonderful presentation.